Shalom, shalom, everybody. How y'all doing today? What up? Welcome back to the next episode of Reading with SHILO. I'm SHILO. I'm out here, baby. What's up? I'm trying to read, do my thing, and destroy something with the reading. We're gonna get to rowing through this book. See a page. We about to get to rowing through the See a Pages, man, by Miss Harriet A. We've been rowing good through that thing, man. We've been rowing wonderfully. It's been very right now. That's a really only word I can say for it. I'm still trying to I don't want to say it's the book. It's more stuff dealing with myself, but in how I'm reading the book and how I'm understanding what is being read. The information that's being read about, I pretty much already knew a lot of it. I hadn't read it to the extent that we are doing now. I ain't started ruin that I have, but I like that I have been able to read a lot of these books that are behind me, and we're gonna continue to see what can do these many books that I made. What's the dealio? So the medical apartheid, the dark history of medical experimentation on Black Americans from colonial times to the present. Man, by Miss Harriet A. Washington. I definitely see why it has a lot of the achievements that it does have so far. If you're definitely into medical stuff, it definitely will be an eye-opener, and it can definitely lead you to some other areas, other memoirs and stuff that you definitely can read. Me personally, I want to find some kind of I like funny, but it's still good information in there. So before we get started on that, we're gonna do work our body, work our mind, work our body. That's gonna be the routine, as we continue to try to keep growing up, at least doing a little something every day, and at least reading a little something every day. Little something. At least I will read. So and I know 25, more than 25, maybe do 25 more on your own time. Get your lazy ass up and do some working body. That's the routine is gonna be. So back rowing with the medical apartheid in chapter 8, the black stork. And pick up where we left off at yesterday. So whatever you're gonna do, get your shit together. Oh, I don't even know what I'm gonna do, but I'm gonna do something. Yeah. Get your shit together. I'll use this. 25 things. Your body. Don't bullshit yourself, not just your body. One, two, three, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25. Oh, whoa now. Whoa, Nelly. All right. 25 things. To get ourselves together one step at a time. And we're going to roll through the Sea of Pages now. Miss Harriet, outside of a lot of medical, the book a handful. I thought it was going to discourage me. Hey, I got to get better, my boy. I got to get better. Oh, yeah, I know. Hey. Once I figure out how to work this thing right, then I'll be back in action. I don't know. I just don't want to put my YouTube up. I don't know what it is. I need one of them, techie people, man. I need one of them techie people to come out to the country and look at my shit. But yeah, let's get started back in chapter 8, the black stork. We're in part 2 of the medical apartheid. Part 2 of the medical apartheid, the black stork. Part 2, the usual suspects. The black stork, the eugenics part in part 1. And 7 pages left till chapter 9, so we're going to try to move through them. All right. Chapter 8, The Black Stork. The 1967 Black Power Conference in Newark, New Jersey, passed a resolution that equated birth control with Black genocide. And that year, a crowd of Blacks chanted genocide as they burned down the Cleveland, Ohio contraceptive clinic. Those who cried genocide found support in a United Nations resolution. And on December 9th of 1948, in reaction to the Nazi-engineered European Holocaust, the United Nations Convention on the Prevention and Punishment of the Crime of Genocide unanimously passed a genocide provision prescribing any attempt to destroy a racial or religious group by killing or harming its members. And the Resolution 260 is probably Article 3A of the United Nations General Assembly of 1948 states in part, genocide means any of the following acts committed with inherent intent to destroy, in whole or in part, a national, ethnical, racial, or religious group as such. A, killing members of the group. B, causing serious bodily or mental harm to members of the group. Emphasis added. And C, deliberately inflicting on the group conditions of life calculated to bring about its physical destruction in whole or in part. Oh, they definitely was doing that. The document also prohibited D, imposing measures intended to prevent births within the group, and emphasis added, and E, forcibly transferring children of the group to another group. Many Blacks argue that the birth control movement per se constitutes genocide under Article D because its negative eugenic stance has constantly targeted Blacks. But by 1972, the American Journal of Public Health verified that the load of genocidal fears had widened, and 40% of surveyed Blacks now believe birth control clinics were a ploy to eradicate Blacks, and these respondents expressed a deep distrust of sterilization programs, abortion clinics, and any birth control programs run by whites. However, a strong gender divide prevailed. Men were much more likely to denounce birth control as genocide than women, especially young, less well-educated, poor, and northern men. In contrast, most Black women embrace birth control, and more women than men That's it. And more women than men contest abortion. I would have thought it would have been contended, but it's not. Contest. In 1970, social activist Donald Boyd, founder of 80% of the Black women he survived in Chicago, approved of birth control, and 75% were using it. And unlikely, Fannie Lou Hamer, many Black women of the post-pill generation had career options. And thanks to the racial integration of schools and workplaces, women were eager to leave unskilled labor behind and to enter the professional sphere. So they wished to delay the responsibilities of motherhood until they were ready. Oh, that's still today. That's still today. But many Black women, yes, sir. Okay. Get back to wash your hands and get back to doing your schoolwork. Brush your teeth. Wash your hands, brush your teeth, get back to doing your schoolwork. But many Black women who desired the used birth control did so despite a strong distrust of the whites who distributed contraception in their own communities. And in 1972, Black social worker Uriah Brown voiced the ambiguity that Negroes don't want children they can't take care of, but we are afraid to trust you when you offered help so often. When you offered help has when your offered help, has so often turned out to be exploitation. And Black college activist Lonnie Myers confessed her discomfort with the fact that some birth control funding came from those races who simply wished to decrease the number of Blacks in the city. But she noted that any cause has strong bedfellows. True. Blacks also drew a distinction between physician-controlled methods and those they could control themselves. And 87% of surveyed Blacks said that they approved of public contraceptive clinics, while 47% rejected sterilization. Considering these social complexities, is the term genocide an accurate description of the birth control initiative directed at African Americans? I would say yes. The proliferation of birth control clinics that were clearly aimed at a Black African American population falls neatly within the UN definitions, and they were intended to selectively reduce births within the group. And also, these clinics were numerous and well funded at a time when health advocates failed to address more pressing African American health issues, such as abysmal nutrition, poor control of infectious disease, high infant mortality, low life expectancy, poor quality health care, scarce mental health care, and even a lack of access to hospitals and physicians. This medical myopia cripples any argument that birth control clinics were erected with the health of African Americans in mind. I'm reading terrible today. But although the proliferation of birth control clinics were unethical, the general rise of reproductive clinics in Black neighborhoods did not constitute genocide because, whatever the intent of the whites who introduced them, such measures were widely embraced by Black women. The UN. But although the proliferation of birth control clinics was unethical, the rise of reproductive clinics in Black neighborhoods did not constitute genocide because, whatever the intent of the whites who introduced them, such measures were widely embraced. They welcome contraceptive choice. However, warily they eyed those who offered it. But as we will see soon, some contraceptive initiatives did richly earn the genocide label. And after the first giddy honeymoon, women and their doctors realized that the pill's high levels of hormones were harmful. It was dangerous for women who smoked, and it inflated their hypertension and stroke risks, and serious flaws for African Americans, who are especially vulnerable to both conditions. And moreover, forgotten and late pills lowered the contraceptive's real-world effectiveness rate at only 70 to 80%. The same vulnerability haunted most other popular birth control methods, except one, the intrauterine device, or the IUD, a favorite with the birth control clinics that served inner city women. And the IUD had many forms, but was essentially a small, thin, and oddly shaped wire coil that a doctor inserted into the uterus, where it prevented pregnancy until the physician removed it. The IUD proved disastrous for African Americans, and initially, researchers were not sure how it worked. But after several years, speculated that it continually irritated the uterine lining, creating the inhospitable environment that prevented the implantation of the fertilized egg. And this discovery, because it seemed like murdering an unborn child, and also fibroids and endometriosis and cancer, making constant irritation of the uterus seem ill-advised. Finally, the IUD was unmasked as a killer, and it became associated with deadly infections that hampered or destroyed users' fertility. Later, scientists determined that the braided string descending from the wire of the Dawkins shield IUD provided a breeding ground for dangerous bacteria, and most IUDs were taken off the market by the 1980s. Because of the Dawkins shields were primarily dispensed in inner city clinics, some activists charged that Black women had been targeted to test a form of birth control known to cause sterility. I was about to say sterility. However, this is unlikely, and scientists clearly hoped that the devices would work well and not fail. But researchers did not introduce racial bias by overwhelmingly apportioning the potential health risks of experimental birth control technologies to women of color, including Black American women. And the pill implant, or the pill, Norplant, and the Depo-Provera shot were first tested in Mexico, Africa, Brazil, Puerto Rico, and India. And once approved, they were administered to large numbers of girls and women in U.S. venues that are disproportionately and usually overwhelmingly African American and Hispanic. These include urban Planned Parenthood clinics, school-based clinics, and urban health clinics that serve Medicaid patients. And many serious effects emerged for the first time during the post-approval stage, when very large numbers of women began taking the drug. Thus, the immediately post-approval use of the contraceptive methods in large numbers of closely monitored poor women of color constituted a final testing arm, so that they were unwittingly participating in a research study. At this stage, serious health complications emerge with methods such as the IUDs and the Norplant and the shot before they ever gain popularity with middle or upper class white women who are cared for by private physicians. In patterns too consistent to be accidental, reproductive drug testing makes poor women of color at home and abroad bear the brunt of any risks that emerge. Appendectomy. The pill may have been flawed and the IUD deadly, but these methods were at least quasi-voluntary, and their effects were usually temporary. And the most damaging threat to African American reproductive freedom has been invasive and permanent: compulsory surgical sterilization. And when the infamous German eugenic sterilization initiative began in January of 1934, 17 U.S. states were already performing sterilization routinely. And that year, between 2,000 and 4,000 Americans were sterilized. Indiana passed legislation requiring the sterilization of the mentally unfit in 1907. And by 1911, 6 states had passed laws providing the compulsory sterilization of the mentally unfit. In 1935, 27 states had such laws for the feeble-minded and those on welfare or those with genetic defects. Now, forced sterilization was encouraged by the infamous 1927 Buck versus Bell decision, wherein Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes ordered the sterilization of the allegedly imbecilic poor white girl Carrie Buck, intoning, 3 generations of imbeciles are enough. And by the 1930s, compulsory sterilization had become a global enterprise. And by 1941, sterilization had been forced upon 70,000 to 100,000 Americans and 9,931 of them in California alone. African Americans have always been staggeringly overrepresented in the ranks of the sterilized. When the North Carolina Eugenic Commission sterilized 8,000 mentally retarded persons throughout the 1930s, and 5,000 were Black. And by the 1983, when Blacks constituted only 12% of the population, 43% of the women sterilized in federal-funded family planning programs were African Americans. This has been achieved under the auspices of a government fed by the myth of the lazy, hyper-fertile welfare mother. Now, say welfare mother, and most people think of the unemployed Black woman. Yet, most women on welfare are not Black. And in 1990, survey revealed that 78% of whites think Blacks prefer welfare to employment. But most Black women are employed full-time and hold at least one job. And women on welfare are likely to be employed part-time at low-wage jobs with few, if any, benefits. However, a Black woman is more likely to receive AFDC, aid to dependent children, for the form of public assistance given to people with minor children, than is a white woman. And Black women constitute 6% of the population, but represent 1/3 of those on AFDC. And in some poor urban areas, such as Baltimore, which is 86% Black, the majority of people on welfare are also Black. Now, forced sterilization and welfare have been linked for nearly half a century, and Mexico and Mississippi state legislator David H. Glass instituted a bold experiment when he sought legal means to force sterilization upon welfare mothers in 1958. Ooh, that wasn't that long ago. That was not that long ago. And by 1960, his act to discourage immortality in unmarried females by providing for sterilization of the unwed mothers passed in the House by a vote of 72 to 37, but died in the Senate as the Black Activist Student Nonviolent Coordinating Committee, the SNCC, protested and distributed a pamphlet entitled Genocide in Mississippi. Excuse me. But most in June of 1973, the use of 2 young sisters in Montgomery, Alabama, exposed the decades of stolen African. 12-year-old Mary Alice Ralph and her sister Minnie Action Agency nurse took the girls to the hospital for a federally funded contraceptive shot and obtained the X of each illiterate parent on the consent form. But their parents later learned that the girls had been surgically sterilized, and they asked Atlanta's Southern Poverty Law Center for help. Now, when the SPLC filed a class action lawsuit to end the use of the federal funds for involuntary sterilization, its lawyers discovered that 100,000 to 150,000 women had been sterilized using federal funds, and that half of these women were Black. And today, 1/3 of all adult Mississippi women and 57% of all Mississippi women 65 and older say they have undergone a hysterectomy.
That food was good.
You thought so, son. That's it? That's what you came for?
Yeah, I was. And I did.
Go finish what you gotta do. There we go. Sometimes the physician removed after coercing or tricking her. The women were also sterilized while unconscious, rendering black women infertile without their knowledge during other surgeries was so common that the procedure was called the Mississippi appendectomy. Physicians to deliver their children were being surreptitiously, there we go, surreptitiously sterilized, and this revelation, some women, shalom, shalom, some women, shalom, shalom, some women like Fannie Lou Hamer were never told by their doctors that they had been sterilized. And one of the few surveys conducted revealed that at least 60% of the black women in Hamer's native Sunflower County of Mississippi unwittingly suffered postpartum hysterectomies. And by 1980, sterilization had become the most common form of birth control, and it still is, edging out condom use are more likely than whites to undergo a hysterectomy, although researchers have known for over a decade that they are at higher risk of the procedure's complications and are more likely to die from the surgery. And according to the National Center of Health Statistics, the NCHS, 41% of black women who used contraception were sterilized, and compared with only 27% of white women. Within a century, reproductive coercion had taken a 180-degree turn for black women. It's a sorry sucker, man. Sorry sucker. Welfare program ages. While it's so be cut off unless the woman agreed to sterilization. Ooh. Guaranteeing studies and almost exclusively to poor women of color. Now, Depo-Provera is a Upjohn Company's brand name for medroxyprogesterone acetate, which is also called DMPA. And in 1978, the drug had just been FDA approved for use as a cancer therapy. And in 1973, after the government discovered that beagles in which the drug had been tested developed breast cancer, it had refused to fund further testing of that drug as a contraceptive. And cancer medications carry significant risks, which are acceptable when one is fighting a deadly illness, but not when the healthy woman is simply trying to avoid pregnancy. And however, licensed physicians may administer legal medications for any use they deem appropriate. The American doctors found it appropriate to administer Depo-Provera as an experimental contraceptive to healthy Native Americans and Black patients. In 1978, the FDA criticized the Emory University study of Depo-Provera as having needlessly imperiled the lives of 4,700 women, all Black. And in 1992, an FDA board warned never has a drug whose target population is entirely healthy people been shown to be so pervasively pervasively carcinogenic in animals as has Depo-Provera. Listing to Norplant. Let me see. Ooh. Let's go. Depo-Provera seemed discredited as a contraceptive, but in December of 1990, the Food and Drug Administration approved another physician-controlled contraceptive. Levonorgestrel, the Norplant contraceptive system. I never heard the name. For the use as a long-term contraceptive. And Norplant consists of 6 small rods that a physician surgically implants into a woman's upper arm using special tools and a local anesthetic. The rods slowly dispense the contraceptive progestin, levonorgestrel, a form of the female hormone progesterone, for 5 years, and after which the surgeon replaces the rods. Norplant suppresses ovulation, thickens the cervical mucus to bar the entry of sperm, and prevents the development of hospitable uterine environment, and may also discharge ovulation by suppressing the hormone lutein. It is extraordinarily efficient, with the annual failure rate of only 0.3 to 0.6%. With perfect condom use, 1 out of every 50 women will become pregnant each year. And so will 1 out of every 100 women who will use the pill assiduously, but only 1 out of every 500 women using Norplant will become pregnant. A 1995 Journal of the American Medical Association article attributed Norplant's effectiveness to the fact that it is controlled by the doctor, citing the steady serum levels of levonorgestrel achieved and the fact that the user compliance is necessary 100% as long as the capsules are in place. And Norplant was developed by the Population Control and a New York foundation that researches contraceptives on poor women of color abroad. It has subsequently been used by more than 1 million U.S. women, nearly all poor. And Planned Parenthood notes that 90% of Norplant implantations are paid through Medicaid in 43 states. A higher proportion of African American women than white women receive these implants, and chiefly in public and in low-income clinics. Why? Frederick Osborne, a Population Council founder, wrote that Black birth control advanced for eugenics reasons, and that would have retarded or stopped their acceptance. From the first, Norplant was selectively marketed not only to the poor Black women, but also to thousands of young Black girls. And the 50,000 Norplant kits implanted in 1991 to 1992 included some for Black teenagers, girls, and Black girls became pregnant. Although epidemiologists did not immediately recognize it, the American teenage pregnancy rate had already begun falling, and the pregnancy rate of Black girls displayed and continues to display the sharp decline of any ethnic group. However, Baltimore is typical in that it is mostly Black and has a teen pregnancy rate that was 3 times the national average, and 10% of its girls aged 15 to 17 are already mothers. But demographics have made the city a useful setting for national experience. school became the first to have been tested in such young girls, and researchers were monitoring their health and reactions. The Nor plant instituted a large-scale national experiment, and this research, as one aggrieved American, their permission to give their daughters an aspirin, girls, but so did the New York that black women were paid to have Norplant implanted in order to reduce the underclass. Can contraception reduce the underclass? Two stories from yesterday's newspapers. The U.S. Food and Drug Administration approves a contraceptive that can keep children are living in poverty, and that the younger the child, the more likely he or she is to be living with a single mother on welfare, and growing numbers of them will not succeed, the study's author says. I'm gonna try to get to a stopping point because we only got about 4 pages left. We got 4 pages left. We'll come back later on the day for sure. Lost. Finish it. I'm gonna get to a stopping point. Try to go to the next 2 paragraphs. Oh man. Next 4. I'm putting the marker. I'm marking the stopping point. We here. I'm trying to go here as a stopping point. From here to here. A line further down than that. As we read these 2 stories, we ask ourselves, dare we mention them in the same breath? To do so might be considered deplorably insensitive and perhaps raising the specter of eugenics. But it would be worse to avoid drawing the logical conclusion that foolproof contraception can be invaluable in breaking the cycle of challenges. Without proof, the editorial went on to link the teen pregnancy and black poverty in a casual relationship, averring the main reason more black children are living in poverty is that people having the most children are the ones least capable of supporting them. And more black children are living in poverty but the black teen pregnancy rate is falling, not rising. So it can't be the key impetus behind the surge of black poverty. In fact, poverty precedes pregnancy. The teen mothers are already poor, and children who are poor are at higher risk for precocious pregnancy. And most media analysis did not speak so directly on Norplant as key to stemming black reproduction. Instead, coding terminology such as urban poor was widely understood to denote black women. Complex set of psychologically poor, academically struggling, and naive about sex and reproduction. They are usually preyed upon and even raped by older men. Yet, the Inquirer reduced the wrenching quandary of teen pregnancy to a matter of Norplant, for which it suggested welfare mothers, black mothers, receive cash bribes, and in 1991, Norplant for former KKK women on welfare who agreed to Norplant implantation would be paid $100 annually. And other lawmakers have followed suit, offering birth control to poor teens unduly entice them. Yeah, I'm stopping there. Man, I wonder if these things are still on the books here in Louisiana. I wonder if they're still on the books. I remember one of my baby mamas had that Norplant Beverly Hills in North Platte. I wonder if she was getting paid $100 annually. Hey, we're gonna stop there. That today that's all we wrote. We could keep rolling, man. I want to keep rolling, man. I want to keep rolling through the pages. We got 4 more pages. 4 more pages, but I'm tired of this shit. My eyes is blurred too. But I started reading better at the end. I read better at the end than I started off reading at the beginning. But we moved through it. It's still an hour. We've been reading for about an hour of The Medical Apartheid by Miss Harriet A. Washington. The dark history of medical experimentation from on Black Americans from colonial times to the present, which is showing out to be. It's a lot of stuff I already knew. It's a lot of stuff I still see going on today. It's still going on, man. Widespread going on. Blatant going on. It's like right in your damn face. But there's a lot of job turkeys out there. Turkeys and sorry suckers. That's why we got to stay in good health. Come on, get up, do the 25. Work your body, work your mind, work your body, baby. No, hey, we got to be in better government plans and orders to, have sterilizations and all other different things. Shit. Let's get our shit together. Shit. They killing us. They winning the battle. 1 nigga, 2 niggas, 3 niggas. By the thousands. By the thousands, man. Man, by the thousands. Knocking them down. But, hey, we got to keep pushing. But, hey, before that, let's get my 25 out the way. I'm going to get my 25 out the way. Y'all do 25 somethings. Do you get off your ass and do 25 somethings? I don't know what something you going to do. Do some somethings. 25 somethings. Let's get better. Yes, sir. 25 somethings. I guess I do something different. 25 somethings. Let's get 25, man. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17. Keep picking up them bags of corn. 18. Want this corn? Come get it. 19. Hit this corn. 20. Let me fill up my truck. 21. 22. 23. 24. 25 bags of corn. 25 50-pound bags of corn. I'm in there. Well, man, I hope y'all found something that y'all can learn and grow from. That we can use in our life, man. We have all that we need to succeed. We have been given. All you need to succeed. We got our mind, our sight, our hearing, our vision. We have all that we need to succeed. Assassinating them and doing my part to bring destruction. One book at a time. One book at a time. One book at a time. One page at a time. One chapter at a time. One session at a time. One episode at a time, man. Until we come back next time, man. We'll keep pushing, man. We're going to keep pushing. I'm out here. SHILO, man. Reading with SHILO. I'm going to read. Mr. I'll read. Oh, I used to hate to read. I still kind of hate to read, but I'll read. Shalom, everybody. Catch me on the next go around. We'll finish off chapter 8. The Black Stork of the Medical Apartheid by Miss Harriet A. Washington. I hope y'all have a wonderful, wonderful day. And catch me on the next go around. Like, comment, subscribe, tell your people, man. I'm out here. Shalom.